Hey guys, it's me, it's Queen Aset Haru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Also, remember, you know the drill. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Pass it on to somebody else who might like it, and leave us a positive comment in the comment section. All right, so I wanted to talk to you guys about something. We talked a lot about ghosting on this channel. I've told you some of the reasons why Aquarius have a tendency to disappear. And I dealt with a ghosting situation earlier this week. And a lot of people asked me a lot of questions about that video. A lot of people are trying to understand this ghosting culture. Apparently it happens a lot. And over the past 3 or 4 years, I've compiled a list of reasons that are given to me from ghosters. So if you have been ghosted or if you are a ghoster, this is the video for you. First of all, if you are a ghoster, I would love you to tell me if you have anything to add to this list. Number two, if you've been ghosted, here are some possible reasons. Some of them are good reasons and some of them are not. Some of them are just straight up selfish. I'm just going to keep it real with you. Some of these reasons are straight up selfish. And some of these reasons are actually pretty good, not going to understand. So we have a mixture of both. So I'm going to explain these to you and you guys tell me what you think. Number one, the person asked me, is ghosting done out of fear? This person, the person that asked this question that led to the list, this person thought that people who ghosted were fearful. They're cowardly, and he wanted to know if that's the case. So I went ahead to find out. Here's number one. The number one reason why people reported ghosting is fear of dealing with complicated emotions. Now, I heard this a lot from Aquarius, but I also heard it from other people. So what they're telling me is that they don't want to deal with the other person's emotions, the crying, the anger. Some of the times these things get violent. Some of these people have tried to leave before and it got ugly. Okay? It got either emotional or it got violent or something popped off. So they are afraid of dealing with the other person's emotions. So sometimes that might be cowardly, especially in the case of a person who can't really hurt you, or probably can't hurt you, I should say, because I've seen people smaller than bigger people actually take them down. So I guess that it could be fear of dealing with their emotion, but the other thing is, sometimes this can be cowardly, in the case of, I just don't feel like dealing with you whining and bitching. I just don't feel like dealing with that. I just don't feel like dealing with you being angry or upset or whatever the case is. To me, that's cowardly because, again, rules of engagement. You engage with this person. The least you can do is give them an explanation and then step off. But on the flip side, I don't think it's cowardly if you're fearful of violence. If you're fearful of some kind of emotional upset. Like, for instance, the one person told me that when he tried to leave, she called his family members and told him lies about him. So he stayed. And he was afraid. And I guess it would be afraid, not even just afraid. He was just, she was messy, she called his family members. She called his probation officer one time. She really started to do stuff whenever he tried to tell her he was unhappy and wanted to leave. So eventually he ended up ghosting because she kept doing that. And that's how he was able to escape her. So sometimes, yeah, it's cowardly and sometimes it's just not. Number two. The next one people said to me is that they are in a new relationship. So during the time they were seeing you, they started seeing someone else. Okay? They weren't honest with you about it. They might have been honest with the other person, maybe not. But they don't now know what to say. They don't know how to come to you and say, well, I got a new girlfriend. I got a new boyfriend. I was talking to this woman one time and she told me that she went on a business trip, and when she came back home, her husband was gone. no communication. First she thought something happened to him, and then she realized he was using his credit cards and he was getting gas and doing stuff. So she was like, okay, well, he's still alive, and doing, different things. And he totally ghosted her. And then it took years for her to find out what actually happened. And what happened was he fell in love with somebody else. Didn't know how to tell her, too cowardly to just say it to her face. So he just disappeared. So again, that one to me is cowardly. First of all, you were cheating. And then second of all, you didn't have the kahunas to tell me you're moving on. So I'll give you that one. Number 3, not wanting to be aggravated with the other person's emotions, feelings, conversation, yelling and screaming, whatever the case is. Some people tell me they just don't want to be aggravated. They just don't want to be bothered with it. And in a lot of these cases, the person told me they tried before. That's how they knew what could possibly happen. And that's why they responded the way that they did. So in this case, I would say, I understand not wanting to be aggravated. I understand not wanting to deal with somebody's over the top emotions. But again, rules of engagement. If you're engaging with them, I think you should at least say something and go about your business. The next one says, not feeling like they need to say anything else. A lot of people told me, I've already said this to this person. I've already told them I was unhappy. I've already told them the situation wasn't good. And they ignored me. They tried to pull me back. Whatever. They didn't say anything at all. Different times they tell me that they have tried to express their feelings, their thoughts. They tried to do it more than once. Especially my Aquarius. Several of my Aquarius was like, we had this conversation, Queen. We had it over and over again. And I just didn't want to have this conversation again. So I packed my shit and I left. And I'm like, well, okay. I mean, if you had it before, what more can you say? I totally understand that. So some of them are like, we already talked about this. And I've gone through this one myself. I've gone through this one a number of times. So I really understand this one. Number 5, not thinking very much of you, aka they don't care. This is a very callous, low vibrational person. This person was seeing you for selfish reasons. Could have been sex, could have been money, could have been things you were doing for them, acts of service, watching their kids, driving them to work. Some people mess with people for some of the most trivial reasons. I remember this girl that used to live in my neighborhood. She would have sex with guys for rides. Literally, just for rides to the store, rides to the market, rides to the laundromat. And I'm like, you don't have to have sex with them to get a ride. You could just call Uber. You could call Uber or, but I don't know, maybe she didn't have enough money or I don't know what it was, but that was the thing. And she said it. It wasn't like people were just talking about her. She said it out of her old mouth. She was like, well, if he take me, I'll give him some. And I was like, what? So different people mess with people for the wrong reasons. So I'm thinking in this case, the person was messing with that person for reasons that were not sincere. They weren't there because they wanted to engage in a relationship. They were there for sex. They were there for their needs. Something that was selfish, basically. And after they got what they wanted, or after somebody else offered them a better deal, they went about their business. So this is a person who just doesn't care enough to tell you the deal. This is a person who's just callous, like I said. And you're very lucky that this person did walk away from you because they probably just would have kept using you. So in this particular case, I'm like, well, it's good that they left. Number 6, the person is just straight up low vibrational, negative energy, we all know those toxic, low vibrational kind of people. And those kinds of people, they don't really have much regard. They're kind of like the person in number 5 where they don't think much of you. But in this case, in number 6, they don't think much of themselves. They don't think much of anybody. So it's not like just you. Like in the case of number 5, it's just they got with you specifically for the wrong reasons. And number 6, they do this to everybody. They do this to everybody. That's just what they do. They get what they want from people and they go about their business. So in this case, you're dealing with a person who has a low vibration, toxic energy, negative energy, and this is just what they do. Again, you've dodged a bullet. You're actually lucky that this person didn't want to be bothered and went about their business, because if you had stuck around, a low vibrational person is really going to abuse you. Number 7, self-preservation. This is the one of the best reasons that I was given. Some people leave because they have to preserve themselves. They tried to talk to you, or, in most cases they did try, like repeatedly, and their emotional health, their mental health is being affected by the relationship. So every time they try to come to you and talk about it and it doesn't go anywhere, they find themselves still in the relationship and they find themselves affected by it. So for their self-preservation, they just ghost. I used to go through this a lot with Voldemort. Emotional abusers do this a lot, because one thing that they like to do is they like to say, can you give me closure? A narcissist or a person who's emotionally abusive will ask you for closure, or they'll say they want to talk to you, or sleep with you one last time, or something like that. They'll try to find a way to make it seem like, and me and Voldemort went through this like 20 times. Literally, he just kept on saying stupid shit like, well, let's talk. And I was so emotional. I would be like, okay, well, just one more time, that kind of thing. And that's how they get you. That's how they get you. Okay, I'll meet you for coffee just to talk, just to have closure. And we end up back together, time and time again. So finally, I was just like, no, I'm not giving you closure. I'm not having coffee. We're not hanging out. We're not having sex. We're not doing anything. No. And it was for self-preservation. And I changed my phone numbers. I did completely ghost. I blocked him on everything. I changed my house number, changed my cell phone number. Sometimes you do have to do that for self-preservation. Another time is when, because in those cases of emotional abuse, they just kind of talk you back into it. But then another time, also dealing with abuse, is when the person is a physical abuser. This is totally self-preservation, because if you go to them and try to say, I'm unhappy, or I'm leaving, or I don't want this anymore, they might hurt you. They might kill you. A long time ago, when I was a very young girl, I was like 19, and I've told you guys this story before. There was a couple that lived down the street from my apartment complex. I lived in a small town, and they stabbed each other to death on Christmas Day on the lawn. It was all over the news. It was huge news that whole year, basically. And again, self-preservation. Many people get killed or hurt trying to walk away from a situation. So what sense would it make if I know my lover is violent? If I know that she prone to gunslinging, if I know my lover is prone to, those types of abuses or violence, why would I tell the person in their face and try to have a conversation with them? In many cases, you're just opening yourself up to another beating, or getting hurt, or getting killed even, like in the case of the couple on the lawn. I remember one gentleman, he told this was a story I saw on the news too. Him and his girlfriend were breaking up. And so he told her he would drive her wherever she had to go. He drove her. It was work or something. And along the way, he shot her and then shot himself in the head. So they both were gone because she wanted to sit and keep it real with him and use the laws of engagement and let him know that the relationship was over. But again, self-preservation. If you know that the person is violent, if you know that the person is crazy, you can't do that. Last one. Number 8. This was one I heard the other day. And I've only heard this from one person, and I think it's kind of bizarre. I could see myself doing this when I was younger, but at this point in my life, it's too much of a hassle. This person told me, he's an Aquarius. He said that he will leave so that the person will change their behavior. So his belief is that his absence shows them that they fucked up. He out, you can see. And if you think back on it, it kind of makes sense, because if you're talking to somebody Monday and all of a sudden you can't find them and they can't be bothered to answer the phone on Tuesday, the first thing you start to wonder is, what's wrong? Did I say something wrong? Was it me? You know, the first thing most people think was, what the hell was that about? You start thinking about it, especially in Aquarius, we start overthinking about it. So he said that he will leave the person alone because of their behavior, and then he'll come back to see if their behavior has changed. And if it hasn't changed, then he leaves again. So it's kind of like you're punishing them for having bad behavior and hoping that that punishment will change their behavior. And I could understand that. That's very logical. But honestly, I've come to find that, especially with adults, punishment doesn't really work. Some people it will. Some people will be that, I'm sorry, that's weak-minded. Some people will be that weak-minded that when you walk away, they figure out it was their behavior and then try to change it. And if their behavior was wrong, then it's not weak-minded. It's actually a good idea. But if their behavior was just who they are and you walk away, so they'll change their behavior. So now you're saying I have to be somebody that I'm not to spend time with you. So it depends on, you know, that one really depends on the circumstances. So now I have to be somebody that I'm not for you to come back, you know, or pretend. A lot of people are just going to pretend to be changed so you'll come back if they figure out exactly what it was. So let's say we had an argument about my spending habits, for example, and you're my girlfriend and we've argued about my spending habits, and then you ghost me because of my behavior. So I'm sitting there like, this had to be because of my spending habits. We argued about it on Wednesday. She gone on Thursday. So now I have the option of changing my behavior so that by the time the person comes back, I can say, well, I'm on a budget. I've got it in control of my spending habits. Or I can just be like, fuck you then. And me, that's probably what I'm going to do. If you walk away from me because you don't like my behavior, it's not going to really come to my mind to change unless it's something that I think I need to change. If you walked away from me because there was something about me and I knew it and I didn't like it too, then I would change. But if you walked away from me for something that, like I said, you know, let's say you walked away from me because you don't like the fact that I eat sandwiches without a plate, for example. It's not going to dawn on me to change that behavior because you don't like it. I'm just like, you just don't like it. You need not date me in that case. So he said this is what he does. He probably gets mixed results with it. I wouldn't do that, you know, not to an adult. I think that's something you do to a kid, you know, like, but it is what it is. If it works for him, then it works. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that to anybody. If somebody has bad behavior, I just leave them alone. I don't try to make them change their behavior to suit my mood. All right, guys, those are the 8 reasons, the top 8 reasons why people from all zodiac signs tell me that they have ghosted people in the past. So number 1, have you ever been ghosted? And do you think it was one of these reasons? Number 2, I want to know if you're a ghoster, do you have any reasons to add to this list? Now, I want to go back really quick before I leave. And I want to say something that I think is very important. In the first one, I talked about fear of dealing with complicated emotions. Now, I want to tell you, if people are ghosting you because you cannot handle the conversation, if you snap out, if you get violent, if you get angry, if you start crying, if you start trying to guilt trip them, if your lover tells you they're unhappy, if you go through any of those motions, this really is something you need to look at in yourself, because you're always going to get ghosted again. This is always going to happen. If a person knows that they cannot sit down and talk to you and you know, reconcile a situation without you flipping out, and this happens a lot. I mean, people tell me this a lot. I remember one guy told me the chick bust out his windows because he told her that he was in love with somebody else. He was in love with his ex, and his ex wanted to come back, and he was still in love with her. And he told the girl the truth, because he didn't want to be cheating on her. He told her the truth. He told her, deuces, I'm still in love with my ex. And she bust out his car windows. So if you're the kind of person who is going to snap out in those kinds of cases, you can expect to be ghosted. And you need to get in check with your emotions. If somebody has something to tell you, especially somebody who's in a relationship with you, they need to be safe. You need to create a safe environment for them to be able to talk to you in. And if they know that you're going to spaz every time, I'm going to ghost you too. Because I'm not going to go through somebody's violent or outbursts or all that. I'm not going through that, you know? Like in the case with this guy and her busting out his car windows. So if you're that person, you're being ghosted and it's your fault. But if you're not that person, there's many on here that is not your fault. And especially some of the ones towards the bottom. And those, I think in a lot of cases, if somebody ghosted you, you're better off without them, especially if they're low vibrational. So that's my take on it. Come back soon because I have a lot more to say. See you later.